Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Newt Tube. Today we are going to be tasting some Viridescens. That is the Red Newt blend of Cab Franc Merlot and Cab Sauvignon. And joining us is Tony Damiani, grower at Glacier Ridge Vineyards, from where much of the fruit in this bottle came from. So welcome, Tony. Welcome back.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah. And the rest of us here, I think you probably know us by now. Heather O'Grady Evans, Megs, Rebecca, Kelby. We're all Newters, part of the Red Newt team, and we're here to talk about wine and have a little sip too. So let's have a sip first.
Thank God. I was getting parched.
Oh, they already got theirs poured.
Professionals.
I think they were warming up.
So this is a 2014 vintage. So I don't know, maybe Kelby, you can give us a little bit, Kelby and Megs, a little bit of some insight into the 14.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about 14 for Riesling, I think, in the past, and what a great vintage it was for Rieslings. Really even growing season, cool, pretty late, which was nice for flavor development. Lasted long into the fall. It was a great year for reds as well. I mean, it has a lot in common when we've talked about 2008 vintages that were good for Riesling and reds. Not the big, bold, maybe extracted style of red that we'd expect from a hot vintage, but a real elegance and ripeness to them with some nice fresh acidity to carry the wines forward.
And how about this particular wine? This was this was mostly Glacier Ridge, probably the Merlot and Cabernet Franc at least.
Mm-hmm. I think it's something like 96% Glacier Ridge, so it's functionally.
Mm-hmm.
That 4% is probably just topping fluid for other things.
Yeah. So what was the 14 vintage like at your vineyard, Tony?
Well, I think you have to go back to the 13 winter, which was like the coldest winter in a long time. I don't know if you remember that, but there was quite a bit of bud damage in 13. So it was a rocky start, I thought. Everyone was kind of worried. I mean, we were so close to the lake that I think we were spared most of it, but there was definitely more buds gone that year than any other year I've seen. So, but I think, like Kelby said, the weather was pretty steady. I mean, it wasn't super hot, it wasn't super wet, but it was a pretty decent year. And I think it kind of was pretty good later on too. It was a gentle fall, so we got those extra week or two that we need usually to get things to where they need to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I remember. I also remember that was the year I planted the new vineyard, so it was a lot of hours out in the vineyard that year is what I remember.
Mm. Yeah. What do you think of this wine, Rebecca? I saw you taking a sip while Tony was talking.
Well, I love this wine, and I was curious about what the name meant, and so I'd love to talk a little bit about where the greenness is in this wine and what the name means.
Well, I can answer about the name, the Viridescens. Recall that this wine is from Red Newt cellars, and the Red Newt is the eastern red spotted newt, which is in Latin, Notothalmus viridescens. So, and searching for a name for a wine that was made up of a blend of grapes, we didn't want to just call it our Bordeaux style blend. And we didn't want to buy into the group that was promoting the trademark name Meritage and be part of that organization necessarily. So we thought, well, let's come up with a name that sounds kind of foreign and funny and hard to pronounce and call it even. So there's Viridescens.
Now, and while it's Latin, it's enjoyable to watch people try to put a French twist on that name.
Because to me, this wine doesn't have green notes at all. It's just drinking so beautifully. And so it was a bit of an oxymoron for me. When I looked it up and I was anticipating maybe some green notes in this wine, and it's drinking so beautifully, I just thought it was kind of curious. And,
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
Well, I think that now the newt, of course, is red and orange in part of its life, but in much of its life, it is kind of a khaki green color. So the green is with the newt, not with the wine.
Not with. Got it. Okay. Phew.
And so Kelby or Megs, whichever. I mean, when it comes to the methodology of creating a Bordeaux style blend, clearly we're doing it in our own style. But what is that style for many people who ask?
You want to take a crack at it, Megs?
I mean, I was just a little bit to, with the wine, this is not like a field of blend or anything. So it's kept entirely, separate by varietals, the entire, process that it goes through from crush to barreling down. And so we have multiple barrels of, each varietal. And then at one point it's time to consider making a blend, and we start, tasting and lab sampling how the wines are going to work together, because not everybody plays well with everybody else. Sometimes they just absolutely clash. So it's really about like individual barrels speaking towards the blend, which we envision to be what has like become Viridescens, which is certainly a level of elegance in the wine, but also one that, much like the other reds, is very age-worthy. So we're looking for a little bit of like tannic structure to it, a little bit of plumpness from the Merlot, and then a little bit of like backbone acid from that Cab Franc component as well. So it's really about how all three of those end up working together.
What's the barrel time on this, Kelby? Megs?
14. I would say probably about 8 months.
Months.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2014, are we using used Canton barrels still, or are we rolled over into French barrels?
It would have been a bit of a mix at that point, which has kind of largely held ever since, I would say. To this day, we try and keep the Merlot components in particular. They seem to really speak well through the lens of the Canton oak, the American oak, especially with age, they just become delightful. With the Cab Franc or the Cab Sauv, we lean a little bit more towards often more neutral cooperage, so not even all that aromatic, but if it's particularly big fruit, towards more of the French oak style, so a little bit more of that spice component.
Now, Tony, do you tend to net these grapes so that they have a longer hang time?
Well, we do now, although we didn't then.
And you want to explain to people why we need to net the fruit?
Sure. I mean, there's different methods. There's the things people love the most when you put what they call grape cannons out. Your neighbors really love them because they go off every minute and they sound like a cannon. But they don't work very well. They work for like maybe a week, and then the birds figure out that they're just making noise. So then you can go to like things you hang in the field, like bright shiny things, and they work about 2 weeks, and then the birds figure out they don't do anything, usually. So netting is, we've put netting in all the vineyards now, even the white. Not that we have a lot of white, but even the white's netted. And it's a lot of labor because you attach it once and it hangs on the side, but you got to roll it up and roll it down and clip it and unclip it. And so it's a lot of overhead, but I have to say, since the netting's in, I think, 99% of the fruit is harvested and maybe 1% gets taken, like at the very ends of the rows where the netting maybe is a little off the plant or something. So it's worth the investment, and it does protect them.
What percentage of the fruit would the birds generally eat without the netting, do you suppose?
It just varied widely from year to year. Like some years, it would totally fool you. You'd have a really mild year where you had very little damage, maybe 5%. And you'd be like, yeah, okay, it's good. And then next year, a flock would descend and like just wipe out, a section of the vineyard, and there's no rhyme or reason. Is all. I couldn't figure it out. So it was kind of like, I don't know if they had a lottery system or what. I don't know what the birds were using, but they seemed to just come around the vineyards kind of randomly. So I would say in an average year between And it's not just birds, of course, it's other ground creatures. We have a lot of turkeys around here, wild turkeys. They actually like grapes, and they're very effective at, kind of knocking clusters down and eating them. So it prevents lots of wildlife from doing damage. And in particular, like the Riesling, which is at the top of our vineyard by the woods, is like a little corridor for deer and all sorts of creatures to walk through. And the first couple of rows were always somebody's dinner. But now, I think last year we almost got, almost a reasonable crop out of that little block. So yeah, it's definitely worth it. I do have, sessions of frustration with the netting because it blows down, it's not like in the movies. So it takes a lot more work than you think. And we're learning, we're figuring it out. We get better clips every year. The secret's in the clips.
Yeah, it's nice to not have the added winemaking complication of trying to guess when the grapes are going to be attacked by turkeys or deer during harvest. It's already enough dealing with the weather to not have to think about flocks of birds.
Now, I have a question.
Mhm.
Years gone by, our Viridescens was pretty much Cabernet Franc dominant until about, 2011, maybe 2012. After that, it is now Merlot dominant. And why is that?
Well, I can speak for the first few handfuls of years, and I think that it continues this way pretty much with the Viridescens. The idea is we start with a blank slate every year, and it's more of an effort to create a red wine that is sort of the best expression of the vintage, and wherever that takes us in terms of blending, because every year each vineyard has performs differently. Some years the Cabernet Franc really shines and makes a terrific base. The other years the Merlot might, and so on and so forth. So it's really just kind of listening to the wines and trying to figure out how are all those pieces fit together to really make an exceptional wine. Do you guys do that still?
Megs is nodding.
We haven't done Viridescens in a couple of years though, so it's
True.
Yeah, I'm going to ask, how often are you making this wine? What dictates when you decide to make this wine?
When the birds don't get the grapes at Tony's property?
Well, I think we probably go through the exercise, or at least, think about making Viridescens every year. But the years when it actually gets to bottle is when the blend of Viridescens excites us. If it doesn't excite us, we just don't do it.
And like I said earlier, like sometimes they don't play well together. You have a beautiful standalone Cab Franc and beautiful standalone Merlot, and you put them together and they wash each other out. So it's really about how those really kind of like, if they shine together, if it's like, it wants to be by itself this year.
Got it.
Do you blend any other vinifera, or is it sort of this is a unique thing in the vinifera world of these particular grapes, these three?
Well, these three grapes are commonly blended, certainly in Bordeaux, and though once or twice, maybe it was just once, some small portion of Syrah did make it into the Viridescens. Again, like I said, blank slate, no real rules.
So you don't have to play by the meritage rules of whatever.
No, that's a private organization which sells licensing to use the name and has a bunch of rules, but we're not part of that. So we just play the rules of winemaking.
You make up your own rules.
Yeah.
Within our cellar, it is relatively, it's a bit of a standout in the fact that it's a blend. Both grapes, but I mean, at this point, a lot of our blends like dry Riesling, or not circle, but dry Riesling, are often almost single lots. So this is it feels a bit like the most painterly of the wines that we work on, because there's that added layer of blending that's added at the end.
Well, and it's a wine for the ages too. We're not talking about a red wine that you just kind of, well, I mean, some people I'm sure uncork it on a Tuesday afternoon and just enjoy it by the glass. But nothing wrong with that. But this is typically a wine where the sales have been talking to customers. We tell them this is a wine you want to bring out for a special occasion. You know, it's a wine you want to hold for an anniversary. So we've got a lot of couples out there who have bottles of Viridescens in their cellars that are waiting for 5, 10, and 15 and 20-year anniversaries. I know I put some down for my niece and my nephews for each of their birth years. I put a little bit down for their 25th birthdays as sort of a celebration, because it's a wine that'll take that kind of time, get better with age.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this is tasting pretty young still. I mean, this is a baby.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think this will be? I mean, Kelby, if you were to lay this wine down in your cellar and choose when to start opening it, when would you open your first bottle? Would you go with that 7-year rule, or are you thinking this might need a little bit more time?
I mean, I think to me, it's kind of drinking at a nice primary point right now. I mean, I think, which is not to say it should be consumed now, but I think this is actually an acceptable time to try it. And then I think, I don't know, I would say we're probably a good 5 years away from kind of a secondary development point where those sorts of like leather and tobacco notes or whatever we're driving it. So I think, and then beyond that, I mean, you know, we expect it to last the long haul, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about this wine too is that, you know, if you look at the closure for it, you don't have to be as worried about what's going to happen over time.
Oh.
Right.
Appears.
Well, speaking of closure,
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be time for us to start wrapping this up. So, you know, I think I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna have for dinner tonight. And for anybody who's been listening to these tubes, you realize I sound like a broken record because it's another beautiful day outside, and I'm gonna go out and light the grill, and I can throw something on it. And I've got, you know, I have these dried sour cherries in my cupboard, and it's gonna involve some sort of sauce or glaze with those cherries, and it's gonna involve some charred, what's a little bit of charred crusty meat, and it's gonna involve some roasted barbecued beets and roasted peppers along with that. That's as far as I am so far, but that's where I'm starting. How about you, Heather? What are you up to tonight?
Well, I have purple asparagus that is up in the garden already. So we're going to take some of that. We have some fresh lettuce that was given to me as a gift from my friend at Nick at Time and Stand Still. He's back home and back in business with his local farm. So he gave me a little bit of fresh lettuce that I can be working with a little bit. So I'm going to do something that has a lot to do with a Finger Lakes hard aged cheese called Heritage from Sunset View Creamery. We're going to add to that. So that Azerbaijani spice I was telling you about that I did with some lamb, well, I've done it to some pork chops too. And I had those cooked off. So we're going to do a big honkin' salad with some really strong cheeses, some Azerbaijani ajik spice, and this. And grilled asparagus because I can.
Oh, I haven't had any asparagus yet this year, and I'm missing it already. Well, I'm missing it. Yeah.
I got to go get it before the animals get it.
How about you, Kelby? What's on your plate?
I think, you know, it's a hot day here. I'm going to start off by enjoying this. I picked up a 10-year aged cheddar from up in Lowville, up in the Adirondacks. So a creamery I hadn't heard of, so I wanted to give them a try and support them. And this should be beautiful with that. And then we have some leftover barbecue ribs. And in lieu of not wanting to turn anything on in the house and heat it up any more than necessary, I think ribs are calling my name.
How about you, Tony and Ann? I think you're over to the side there. What do you have?
Yeah, she handed me the menu, so she won't speak. It's in honor of it being so hot. It's sort of like a cold dinner, salad dinner. So we're having goat's cheese crostini with grilled mushrooms. We're having roasted corn salad with oven-dried tomatoes and a balsamic dressing. and we're having a chilled Mediterranean couscous salad with feta cheese.
Oh, sounds delicious.
Perfect.
Yeah. How about you, Rebecca?
We also don't want to heat our house up. So it's Taco Tuesday. We're going to go to Rancho Viejo and pick up some pork carnitas.
Nice. And Megs?
Try not to laugh, but I'm going to do something I've never done before, obviously on the grill. I'm going to cook steak. I have never grilled steak before, so this will be a first, and I feel like it's going to go really nicely with this wine. And I'm thinking I've got a Roquefort Blue, which I think I'll kind of make down into a sauce to put on top of that. And I haven't figured out side dishes yet, but now I think I might be doing a couscous salad with some feta cheese.
Sounded good.
And is it a charcoal grill or a propane grill?
So I actually have both on my grill, but tonight's definitely going to be charcoal.
Grilled bok choy yesterday, which was a kind of not something you think about grilling, but it really came out nice.
Oh.
I've really been getting into grilled greens these days. We had romaine yesterday, but I particularly like sort of kale and collards and sort of hearty winter greens. The whole plant just thrown on the grill. Wash off the dirt first. All right. Well, that does it for Viridescens for today. Until Saturday, a few days from now, when we'll be tasting more Viridescens, I will say good night. Enjoy the afternoon. Cheers.
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 See you.